Welcome back, team, and we are on day 2 of Microsoft Azure Administrator training. And before we move on to today's agenda, let's have a quick recap. So today, what is that we are going to learn? The theoretical part is very less, and we are going to address 3 labs, and we are going to learn about Azure subscriptions, Azure Compute Service, and Windows versus Linux virtual machine in Azure. Azure subscription is one of the major main topic. Unless you understand this, most of the part you'll not be able to do anything. Why? Let us try to understand first what is all about Azure subscription. There are 3 main types of Azure subscriptions are available: free, pay as you go, and member offers. The free account is the initial subscription that provides unlimited access to Azure resources with a $200 credit that can be applied to paid products. That means the moment you create a Azure account, you will get a $200 credit, which will be worth about 13,400 to 14,000 INR. And as and when you start consuming or using the resources, this amount will be getting deducted. So the first time when you create a lab, maybe you will run it for 1 or 2 hours, and at the end of the lab, if you go back and check for the credit available, about 50 to 60 rupees or 100 rupees might have been deducted. So this $200 credit is valid for the first 30 days after you sign up. That means today you will sign up, and for the next 15 days you are not using, or you have not even logged into Azure portal. And when you log in back on the 16th day, that means 15 days of usage limit you have already lost, though that 200 credit is still available with you. So in addition, there are various services which are available for free for the next 12 months, and more than 40 other services that are always available for free. Some of them like identity and access management, there is no charge for it. And monitoring tools, there is no charge for it. If you take multi-factor authentication, there is no charge for it. So let us see what are those freebies that are available. So can you see my screen, all of you?
Yes,
Team, please.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay, all right. So to begin with, we have Windows Virtual Machine Compute. About 750 hours is available. Okay, and similarly, we can create a Linux virtual machines that is available for 750 hours, and Azure Managed Disk, that is storage 64 GB into 2 hard disks that you can use it. Azure Blob Storage, which is available up to 5 GB. See, these naming conventions are a little bit different compared to other service providers. The same Azure Blob Storage is referred to as S3, Simple Storage Service in AWS. I'm just trying to here and there give the comparison between different service providers, so that people or the participants who are already having hands-on with other service provider like Google Cloud or AWS will be able to correlate. Okay, and Azure File Storage. Similarly, in AWS we refer to as EBS, Elastic Block Storage, and NFS or EFS, that is the Network File Storage or Elastic File Storage. So these are all the services. There are various services. I will be sharing this link. You can go through this at a later stage to find out which are all the services that are available for lifetime free. And remember, to use any of these services, you will have to have a subscription, either a free subscription or pay as you go model, a paid subscription to use any of these resources or services. And here, in my case, I have upgraded myself to pay as you go model, because I'm having this account for more than 2 years. So I do not have any free credit to use. So obviously, I will have to upgrade myself to pay as you go. And another advantage with pay as you go model is you have access to any kind of virtual machines, any kind of storage, any kind of servers. It is available here and there. In free tier, what happens most of the time, a particular resource is not available for you to use. Say, for example, if you are creating a virtual machine, you will select a Windows image or a Linux image. For that, suitable hardware should be available for you to host that virtual machine, right? In case of a free account, free tier account, most of the time it is not available, because just like you and me, there are millions and millions of subscribers who are in free tier. So the moment you create a virtual machine, that much of resource is blocked and dedicated for you. So nobody else will be use that space in the virtual environment of that particular server. So what happens? It is like early bird catches the one, like that. If you have logged into Azure portal, maybe in the early morning hours, and if you're able to create some virtual machines, yes, you have the resources, you have access. And at the end of the time, once you delete that or terminate that virtual machine or the resources, if you try to recreate at that time, second time, you may not be able to get that option, because somebody else had already occupied that place. Somebody else had already utilized that free tier which is available. So in case of pay as you go, there are different separate dedicated servers are available. So the moment you log in, since you are getting, since you are willing to pay for it on a priority basis, you will get those virtual machines to create and use it. This is the just a brief about the Azure subscription. Let's see in detail what exactly it is. To use Azure's cloud-based services, you must first purchase a subscription. Here, as a first-time user, yes, you will get a free tier user account, and within the 1 month, within the next 1 month, you will have to upgrade it to pay as you go. At any point of time, if you find difficulty in not using the free tier user account, it is always advisable to upgrade your present user account to pay as you go, because no point in spending time keep trying here and there with the different regions, different availability sets for creating our virtual machines or resources. Obviously, we don't know where it is available free, where the resource is available for immediate use, or it is already occupied. We'll be keep trying, and we'll be wasting time. And even this pay-as-you-go subscription fee, it is not huge. If you are very much within your limits, if you know what you're doing, the moment you create and created the lab exercise, you have done all your exercises, please go ahead and delete those resources immediately, so that you will not be getting charged. Most of the cases, the Azure pay-as-you-go model, the charges will be on hourly basis. A particular server, for example, they may charge about 12 to 15 rupees per hour. Suppose you are using that virtual machine for, let's say, 5 minutes. You have created the virtual machine. Within 5 minutes, you looked into whatever the things that you want to do, and you have terminated or you have stopped that virtual machine. That means you are getting charged only for the 5 minutes, not for 1 hour. And similarly, if the virtual machine is hosted and if you have deleted that virtual machine well within a minute, you will not be charged at all. So if the subscription is not upgraded to the paid one, all the resources and the services that are created during the trial period will be automatically disabled at the end of the month. So what happens, let us say you have created a virtual machine and you're not terminating or deleting that virtual machine, but you want to use it on daily basis. So at the end of the 30th day, if you have not upgraded this to pay as you go or paid subscription, your services, virtual machines, whatever the components that you have added in the cloud, that will be disabled and may not be available. You may not be able to recall it again. So the person who creates an Azure subscription becomes the subscriptions global administrator. What does that mean? Now, in the last class, we have created a new Azure account, correct? So that username, password, what you give, the email address or the telephone number, and the password to log into that Azure portal is the global administrator. In other words, it is the root administrator of that particular entity or that profile. Here, when we say Azure subscription and the account which has been created, it is nothing but a corporate account itself. It is not just like your Gmail or Yahoo, some email account. It is a corporate account itself. Beneath that, you can create so many other accounts. You can add up Active Directory, the exact corporate environment which is there, the corporate entity, the same thing you can replicate here. And you will have complete control over all the aspects of the subscription. You can add multiple subscriptions with various access management policies and invoicing procedures that can be added on to Azure account. So in general, a subscription in Azure is a container that holds collection of connected business or technical resources. Here in the graphical presentation, you can see, so this is the root user account, what you have created, your username and password, that we can refer to as a management group. Okay, that is the head, that is the primary account. Beneath that, you will add up the subscription. What is the subscription? It could be the first subscription could be free and your free tier account. The next one is pay as you go subscription that you have added. So each and every subscription can be added to a resource group. What is a resource group? Here, resource group can be this resource group. I will call it as accounts department. This I will call it as HR department, and this I will call it as maybe software development department or entity. So for each and everything, I will create a separate subscription. Beneath the subscription, various resources are added. What is that resource? Let us say this is the, as I was giving an example of HR department. For HR, we need so many virtual machines to be created, right? This is a virtual machine. Similarly, we need to have a database. The HR, they need to manage the database of all the employees for their salary slips. Maybe new employees are getting recruited, or the previous employees, they are going out and they're getting separated, doing their settlement, settling their PFs, gratuities, whatever, everything that gets stored in the database. So this particular subscription will have various resources that are created for them. And what is the monthly billing? What is their usage? And how much money you need to pay for this particular entity, you will get to know. Overall, you may have to pay about 5,000 USD, let us say, for a particular month, out of which how much resources consumed by HR, how much resources consumed by maybe payroll or other department or a software development department or an IT infrastructure. Everything that you will get to know in detail and in depth. Okay, this is all about the Azure subscription. Any doubts or clarification needed here? I will touch upon that.
No, sir, no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, we are good, sir.
Okay, thank you. So let me take you back to my my Azure portal. Okay, here do you see the subscriptions? A tab.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, here we have subscriptions. So under this subscription, I have already added 2 subscriptions. By mistake, I did not notice, and I have added 2 subscriptions. One of them I deliberately selected and disabled it, or else what happens? I will end up in paying for 2 subscriptions. Both are pay as you go models. You see that? So similarly, we can add as many subscriptions as we want. So every time I come back to my pay as you go subscription, I will get to know what is the charge and when it was created. And here it is in currency, status is active. And here you can see the total invoice amount. Just I added up this yesterday, and on daily basis, this is the since are available in the dashboard. On daily basis, I'll get to know what is the charge. So this particular cloud service provider Azure is very, very simple to understand, and you will get to know on daily basis, minute to minute, what is the consumption and how much you need to pay. And remember, at any point of time, you can cancel this subscription. Okay, the moment you select cancel the subscription, within 2 hours it gets updated, and from that very moment you will not be charged. Okay, this is all about the Azure subscription. So next we have the Azure certifications. What is all about the Azure certification? We last time we just touched upon the various that is the learning path or the learning curve from Azure fundamental to next that is Azure administrator, and next going on to expert level. Correct. So what is all about the certification and the options that are available for this particular training, that is AZ-104. So Microsoft Azure Administrator Certification exam is designed for people who have hands-on experience or willing to work in implementing, managing, and monitoring a Microsoft Azure environment. So this clearly says what are all the topics that we are going to learn and explore in detail during our entire training session. So we are going to learn about implementing all the Azure resources, managing them, monitoring them, and here and there coding is there, that also we will touch upon. So this exam will test your technical skills in implementing solutions based on different scenarios. So having prior experience in infrastructure management will be a plus, and it is not mandatory, and also helps you to correlate with what you're learning on daily basis. So what are all the topics that are covered during the test, during the certification exam, and what are all the topics that we are going to learn in detail in this entire class? First and foremost thing is managing Azure identities and governance. In simple, it is called identity and access management, creating various users beneath your corporate account, beneath your root account. You can create as many user accounts as you want. As such, there is no limit, and you can allow them to manage your resources. It is like, you just imagine the root account or the free tier account what you have created is a company like XYZ or ABC company. In that company, there are so many thousands of employees working, right? So for each and every employee, you are creating an email account. You are providing maybe they will have an Active Directory. You will provide them online cloud storage for storing their emails for since most of the corporate companies, they use Office 365, providing space for them to save their daily documents, the day-to-day work, whatever they are doing. So managing those complete identity, creating new users, managing them, and taking care of those things. And for that, in the exam, 15 to 25% weightage is there. Out of total number of up to 60 questions are there. Out of 60 questions, 15 to 25% of questions are based on identity and access management. Next, implement and manage storage devices. This is completely about the storage devices, the hard disk, what we use in our Azure environment, what are all the different types of storage devices that are used. And once again, about 15 to 20% of questions are based on storage. Further, we have deployment and managing Azure compute resources. That is creating our virtual machines, tweaking, fine-tuning, installing patches, upgrading, all those things. And again, 20 to 25% of the questions are based on Azure compute resources, that is virtual machines. Another very important topic is VPC and VPN, virtual private cloud and virtual private network. Here, once again, 25 to 30%, you can see the weightage. This is one of the top question where most of them, they either do not attempt or they will go with a wrong answer and they'll not be able to get the certification. And last but not least, monitoring and backup of Azure resources, least importance. And suppose some of the participants are completely ignoring this, still they can very easily manage to pass with these four. And in general, Microsoft Azure certification are much harder to crack. Please understand, much harder to crack as compared to AWS or GCP, the competitive cloud service provider. This is specifically the exam. This is because Microsoft Azure will test for practical knowledge to get answers on exactly the steps on how to use these services instead of conceptual or strategic information. In case of AWS or GCP, what happens? He will give you a question. Okay, what is the default username of Windows virtual machine, or Linux distro virtual machine, a specific Linux distribution virtual machine? So what is the default username to log in? This could be the general question in case of AWS or GCP. Whereas in case of Azure, he will ask you to give the steps, the breakup steps, how to log into the virtual machine of Windows virtual machine in Azure or Linux based virtual machine. Option 1, 2, 3, 4 will be there. In option number 1, what are the steps? You will create a virtual machine. Next, login directly. In the option number 2 will be, you will create a virtual machine. You will do SSH or RDP. Likewise, step by step, it will be there. You will have to handpick the correct answer in case of Azure. And when it comes to certification, the Azure certification is at least 2 times more difficult as compared to AWS equivalent certification. The Azure administrator is an associate level certification. The same associate level solution architect, it is called in AWS, which is 2 times much easier. If you take Azure, that is AWS, it is 2 times much easier to crack as compared to Azure. Similarly, if you take Google Cloud, it is 3 times much more difficult as compared to Azure. In other words, Google Cloud GCP certification is much easier compared to Azure. Here, the picture was supposed to be onto the other side for easy comparison. So in general, Azure certifications are much harder to crack. This is all about the certification. Any doubts, clarification needed, team? We can touch upon that. If not, we will move on to the lab exercise.
No question, sir.
Yeah, so 20 to 25% of VMs and VCP, VPN, if we touch these two topics in good manner,
yes,
it means 50% we can cover the exam questions.
Exactly. And here, again, out of 60 questions, 40 questions are only there for
these two topics
to attend. Okay, so it's a 2 hours exam, 2 hours certification exam. Okay. If you are able to complete these 40 questions quickly, another 20 bonus questions you will get. That means within the 40 questions, let us say you will have to answer correct at least 25 questions, 15 questions. Even if you make it wrong also, you will be able to get through. But what if 20 questions you have answered correctly, 5 questions you did not answer correctly? So that means there is a that means you will fail, right? So if you are quick enough, if you are able to complete this first 40 questions quickly, you will get additional 20 questions. So you can answer those 20 questions as well. In total, you will have 60 questions. It is time based. So in the next, in the 2 hours, if you are able to answer only 50 questions, that's fine. You got additional 10 questions extra. In that 10 questions, you are able to answer 5 correct. So you'll be able to get through, you'll be able to pass. So the total passing marks is 700. The total exam score is 4,000. So each and every question will have its own weightage. Let us say monitor and backup Azure resources, 10 to 15%. This is the least preference. Let us say you got 5 questions. All the 5 questions you answered correctly, you may be able to get only 5 points. Same time in VPC and VPN, you might have got only 5 questions. That may give a turnaround of maybe 40 marks, because the weightage is more on VPC, VPN, definitely not on monitor and backup. In monitor and backup, everything is GUI based, and there is no much uh, user intervention is needed. Everything is predefined. So, wherein in case of VPC, VPN, VMs, that is virtual machines, Azure identities and governance, everything you will have to manage, everything you will have to take care. So, naturally, the weightage is much, much more. Okay. So, all good. Shall we move on to the next slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, further we have Azure Compute Service. What is all about Azure Compute Service? Azure Compute Service provides an on-demand computing service in order to run cloud-based applications. This Azure Compute Service is nothing but the virtual machines what we create. So computing resources such as instances, processors, memory, storage, operating systems, networking are all provided by the Azure Compute Service. So all of them put together is referred to as Azure Compute Service. So fundamentally, the term compute refers to physical servers comprised of the processing, that is the CPUs, memory, and storage required to run an operating system such as Microsoft Windows or Linux, and some virtualized networking capabilities. So Azure Virtual Machines is one of the several types of on-demand scalable computing resource that Azure offers. So typically you choose a VM virtual machine when you need more control over the computing environment than other choices that are offered. So the main purpose of virtual machine is to operate multiple operating systems at the same time from the same piece of hardware. That means the laptop or the desktop what you are using, you by default, most of us will have only one operating system, right? Windows or Mac. So the same laptop or the desktop computer, we can use it for running multiple operating systems simultaneously, so that we can achieve it through a virtual machine or a virtualization software. If we install a virtualization software, within that virtualization box or virtualization software, we can add as many operating systems as we want, depending upon the hardware configuration available. So without virtualization, what happens? Operating multiple systems like Windows or Linux same time is not possible. For everything, you need a separate unit, separate hardware. See, if you have two laptops, one has got Macintosh and one has got Windows, or one has got Linux and another one has got Windows. That means you have two separate hardware to run two different operating systems. What if you get an option to run both these operating systems in one single laptop itself, one single desktop itself? So what happens to another one? That becomes a spare, that becomes an addition add-on, right? That you can use it for a different purpose, or maybe you can lend it or give it to one of your family members to use that. Correct. Similarly, we have in our mobile phone, we have dual SIM or maybe 4 SIM mobile handsets are available. Correct. So instead of carrying the two separate handsets for two separate SIMs, you can very well insert both the SIMs in one single mobile device, mobile handset, and another handset you can give it to one of your family members or to your friends or colleagues or whoever. Correct. So no need of carrying two handsets, no need of investing on multiple hardware or mobile devices. The same thing here also goes with the virtual machines. So Azure Virtual Machines comes in variety of sizes that are also optimized for specific used cases. So these are the current and latest series of virtual machines, whatever that has been mentioned here. Apart from that, there are several other sizes are available. We are not touching upon all the things. At the beginning of the class, while creating a Linux VM, we had seen the options that are available as olden type. There is the old type or old size, which is already decommissioned and not in use. But however, still it is available for us to use. So we are not touching upon all the outdated topics of what are all the current and latest sizes that are available. Please try to understand each and every size which is available here. And it is these sizes that we are going to pick while creating our virtual machine. So depending upon the purpose and the need, what we have. One such thing is called, we have general purpose. So these virtual machines comes with balanced CPU to memory ratio. So there is a ratio between, for this one CPU, virtual CPU, so much of memory, minimum memory is required. So these kind of virtual machines are used or meant for testing purpose, for development purpose, small to medium databases, and low to medium traffic web servers. Throughout our class, 99% of the cases, we will be using only general purpose. We will not be using other variety sizes of virtual machines. There are two reasons. For all our practical learning, for exploring the complete Azure and performing all our lab exercises, this general purpose computing virtual machine will take care, will provide all the resources that is needed. Unless there is something very huge, compute optimization is needed, memory optimization is needed, only then we will go with other compute type. Same time, we end up in paying much heavy cost, uh, much more as compared to the general purpose. In general purpose, for example, for 1 hour we may pay about 12 to 15 rupees for a virtual server with all the facilities features available. The same thing with compute optimized, we may end up in paying about 50 rupees per hour. So there is a huge difference, almost 2 to 3 times. So next thing is compute optimized. These virtual machines comes with high CPU to memory ratio. It is meant for and good for medium traffic web servers, network appliances, batch processes, and application servers, app servers in short. Further, we have memory optimized. These virtual machines comes with high memory to CPU ratio. Meant for, it is good to use for a relational database servers, and also used for in-memory analytics and business intelligence applications or tools. Suppose your laptop doesn't come with a feature to run Power BI, let us say, for example. Power BI is one of the business intelligence application, and but still you want to somehow make it to the point you want to learn. You want to instead of investing money on a new laptop or a desktop, or upgrading your laptop or desktop, still want to you want to go with learning the business intelligent applications, Power BI. In that case, we can create a virtual machine with memory optimized with minimum 16 GB or 32 GB of RAM, maybe two virtual machines, two virtual CPUs, and with the SSD hard drive. And yes, of course, you can use it online in the cloud. And same time, you may end up in paying about 50 to 100 rupees per hour, correct? And instead of you spending about 10 to 12,000 rupees for upgrading your present laptop or desktop, maybe spending 100 rupees is fine, correct? Maybe you will use it for 10 hours of most of the classes. Learning classes will be 15 to 20 hours, right? At the end of the day, at the most, you might have spent about 2,000 to 2,500 rupees. The same thing, if you want to invest it on your laptop, it may be much higher. It may be on the maybe on the higher side. So instead, you can opt for it. This is in case of Azure. Same time, if you do it with AWS or GCP, it is completely free. There, the concept of free tier is entirely different. They provide each and every resource for you to use it. The 750 hours you can consume it in the next 1 year, or maybe you will be able to consume it well within 1 month itself, depending upon what type of resources that you use. Whereas in case of Azure, from the word go, from the very next moment you have created your virtual machines, it will start consuming. You will start paying for it. So you should be very careful with Azure. So further, we have storage optimized. So these virtual machines comes with high disk throughput and input output, ideal for big data, SQL, NoSQL database, and large transactional databases. Where you need to use high-end databases, then we create or choose our virtual machine storage optimized. For some of the lab exercises, yes, we have to opt for storage optimized. That's why I was telling 99% of the case will go with general purpose only. That 1% is for those specialized lab exercises where we need to go for either memory optimized or storage optimized. Further, we have GPU. These are specialized virtual machines meant for heavy graphics rendering and video editing purpose. Suppose your business entity is in a graphics oriented work. You will create or edit the graphical oriented work. In that case, we can opt for this GPU based. So high performance compute, these virtual machines comes with the fastest and most powerful CPUs with optional high throughput network interface. So this is all about the theoretical part for today's session. We will move on to the lab session. Let me know if you have any doubts or clarification that we need to touch upon. We'll look into that and we will get into the lab. Team?
I don't have any questions, sir.
Okay, thank you. So in the lab, in the virtual machines, we are going to create today a Windows virtual machine and Linux-based virtual machines. What is the difference? Let us try to correlate. Let us try to compare so that it will be much easier for us to create the virtual machines and also to understand them. A Windows virtual machine, you need a Windows license. Please try to understand. If you want to create a Windows virtual machine, you need to have a Windows license. So the license cost is included in the virtual machine. Suppose you do not have a license, without the license, you cannot create a virtual machine. Then you need to ask Azure to provide the license so that Windows license is also included in the virtual machine price. That means if you are paying a 12 rupees for 1 hour, this is just an example for a window-based virtual machine, another 2 rupees or 3 rupees may be added for Windows license to use it for 1 hour. You can also bring your own Windows license and attach to the virtual machine so that you will save the license fee cost. What does that mean? That means if you have a Windows 2019 or Windows 10 virtual machine you are creating, if you are already having a Windows 10 or a Windows 2019 license, you can say, you can opt for it, saying that you already having a license. You can include that license so that that additional extra cost will not be added. So you need to set a username and password for your virtual machine to log in. You have to use a much larger instance to run Windows virtual machine, at least a B2 size. This is what the size that we were talking in the previous slide. And it has full desktop environment. That means it has got complete GUI, graphical user interface based. It is Windows virtual machine. Whereas in case of Linux, most versions of Linux distributions require no license because it is completely freeware or shareware. You set either username and password, or you will create an SSH key pair to create. So you can utilize smaller virtual machine size because you're not running full desktop experience. There is no GUI available for Linux-based virtual machines, only CLI, command line interface. So Unix and Linux-based systems traditionally are terminal-based environments. That is the reason it is only CLI based. So we will quickly move on to the lab exercise. Let's create a Windows virtual machine as well as Linux-based virtual machine.